Amanda DiVito-Parle. Welcome to my podcast, At the Kitchen Table, where we guide, inspire, and connect. The kitchen table philosophy was sort of a lot of the work you and I do, which is you go into people's important tables and meet them at the place where they're at, the need that they have. And so for my real estate business, that was the kitchen table. And for you, you have a different kind of a table. But I'd like to welcome my guest, Trent Walton. Trenton Walton.
You can call me Trent.
Trent, thank you.
Yeah.
At Forensic Discovery. And what is Forensic Discovery? What do you do?
I named my business to where it's kind of like going to a restaurant called Good Food. So what we do is we do digital forensics and electronic discovery. So our clients are primarily law firms and corporations. We deal with a lot of, let's say, internal investigations of corporations. Let's say an employee leaves, steals information, takes it with them, tries to start their own business or use it at a competitor. Another aspect of the business is large-scale commercial litigation. So let's say Microsoft is suing Facebook, and I guess it's called Meta now. Then at that point, we would get hired by one of those law firms to help them manage all the electronic data for that litigation. So
you basically are tasked in an urgent situation often to come in and capture data.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So attorneys often call you and say, Trent, I've got a client that called, an employee's left, he's trying to steal their data, and you immediately get in and basically lock their systems down or preserve the data.
Right. The first step is it's almost somewhat like a crime scene. So you want to be able to get in there and get access to where all the data is before any of it gets altered, destroyed, modified in any way. And so we'll go in and we do what's called forensic collections or forensic images of the data. And then eventually we'll do the analysis on the information and then provide our findings to the law firm and eventually to the court.
Wow. Okay, so back me up and tell me, where are you from and how did you land in this place where you know this very niche thing? And then I'll have you build me into forensic discovery in your prior business and some of your endeavors and how you got here. But where are you from?
So I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas. I'm sure you can still tell from my accent.
Just in there, just a tiny bit.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge.
If
I get country music going, your twang comes out.
Or a beer.
Or a beer.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, and so I grew up Dallas-Fort Worth area, went to Texas Christian University, TCU, go Frogs. And then while I was in school, I had a hard first 3 semesters. I have ADHD.
As many entrepreneurs do.
Yeah, unfortunately. And so I just had a hard time showing up to class, following through with my work, just doing what I needed to do. And then, eventually I got to the point where I was like, I got to do something with my life or I'm just not going to make it. I'm just going to end up being in an unhappy long-term situation. So I kind of made a decision for myself that, I needed to kind of work on the rest of my life. I ended up, going to the school clinic and I got diagnosed with ADHD. Again, I was diagnosed as a kid. I kind of knew. But then at that point, I totally turned things around. So I was getting a computer science degree. I decided, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know if I want to do this the rest of my life. I don't want to be a programmer in a basement at, Lockheed Martin or somewhere else. And
you were too extroverted for that.
I was too extroverted. I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in with my classmates. And so I was getting toward the end of that, and I was like, oh gosh, I got to do something else. And so the school is coming up with a program for entrepreneurship. So you can get a bachelor's in business administration and entrepreneurial management. And so I went to, the school was going to open that next semester, and I went in and talked to this guy. His name's David Miner to, about the program. And the guy told me a story. He was like, oh yeah, I had this lawn business and, I sold it and, I'm now here to contribute. And so I walked away thinking, like, what does this guy know? He owns a lawn business. I mean, later to find out is that he sold it for $20+ million, and it was, a really large one. He was very successful.
Scaled a landscaping company from one mower to millions or whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things he was saying is, look, you don't have to be great at business. You just have to be able to do it better than everybody else. And so that's what he did. He looked at all the different lawn businesses that are out there. And he's like, well, what are they doing? What can I do to do it better?
Yeah.
And so I decided to, start getting a degree in entrepreneurship. That was a fun discussion with my family going, hey, guess what? You thought I was about done with school? Well, just give me a few more years here.
Need some more time. Yeah.
Need some more time. And so I finished up computer science degree, doing an entrepreneurial degree. I was able to finish that up. At that point, I decided I want to be an intellectual property attorney. I have no idea why. I'm all over the place, right?
Well, but your dad was an attorney, so you had this influence of law in your life, right?
Right. And I felt like I had a, good, strong understanding of the technology, and I felt like I could be very successful in the legal area.
Yes.
And so, so that was the area I was wanting to go. And then I got some good advice from David Miner and, my mentor. And he's like, learn from other people's money. He's like, before you decide to go off to law school and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, like make sure it's something you want to do.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to all the intellectual property firms out in Dallas-Fort Worth area. I got a clerkship. Usually you don't get a clerkship till after you do a year of law school. So I did a clerkship there, and I quickly found out that I did not want to be an intellectual property attorney. A lot of it was driven by I got to see the other associates that were working there that were fresh out of law school, and I kind of got to see what was involved. And I was like, you know what? I don't like to read a ton, and I'm not really a great writer. Like, this might not be a good fit. But what I did see was the way the technology was coming into the legal space. And so, in the legal space, you have this thing called discovery. You have this discovery phase where both sides have to request and exchange information related to litigation. And at that point, emails are starting to become part of the formula of data that gets exchanged. And I just knew that this was going to be just a big area. Mm-hmm. And so I was working at the firm. We started making some changes. It's like, oh man, this is great. It's like playing Monopoly. Like, we get to make, I have these ideas and make these changes and get to see the effect. And so I went to my mentor again and I said, hey, I'm going to go out and start my own business. So what I'm going to do. He's like, no, you're not. I was like, what are you talking about? I can go start. He's like, yeah, you can start your business now, but you'll be like anybody else. And you'll just be like struggling day one. He's like, no, go one thing, learn from other people's money, work for a large international law firm, see what it's like to be work within that firm and be your potential client, develop that pedigree, and then start your business. And I was like, I don't agree with you, but I'm going to listen to you anyway. Yeah. And then I worked at international law firm for several years.
Doing like more of a technology job for them?
Yeah. So it's essentially they were starting a department. I was actually interviewing for an analyst position for litigation support department out in Washington. And then they're like, you know what? You have this entrepreneurship degree. You just seem like you're the type of person we kind of throw into a new situation and you'd be able to figure things out. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, let's do it. And so they had a new position out in Colorado to open up their litigation support department for their 3 offices here. And so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was, as we would say here in Colorado, right, I was way over my skis.
You were over your skis.
I was way over my skis. And, I got in the job and, oh man, talking about learning. Like it was like drinking through a fire hose of information.
Oh, but so the best for a curious and insatiable entrepreneur like you, right? I mean,
absolutely.
In a way, it's like throw them into the wolves, let them run with the fire, and you'll find your feet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely.
I feel that, or I can relate to that sentiment. Whatever you were in your 20s or something.
Yeah, I was like mid-20s. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you come here and you do what?
So after I was there for several years, I knew I wanted to start my own business. Like the whole idea, I was like playing the long game. I was working at that first firm, working at the second firm. I was just waiting for the right time to start my business. So I got involved in the community, started a chapter for the National Association of Litigation Support Managers. And so I, reached out to all the other, people that are in my position in other firms and said, hey, let's start this chapter. It'd be great. We have this organization. We can learn from each other. And sounds good. And so it's funny that after a year, we became the largest in the nation, the largest chapter in the nation.
Well, this surprises me none, knowing you. You are this innate connector. Anytime I talk to you, you're like, who you should talk to. You should know. You know what you should read. You and I do a lot of this. And it's part of why we have such a nice friendship. But you are an innate connector. So it surprises me none that you grew a chapter of the analysts who were working in law firms like that. Okay, so what happens with it? I'm curious.
And so I was doing the organization for several years. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to start my first business. And it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to make so much money. And it's going to be super easy and super successful.
And?
So that was 2006. And I started it. And I got to tell you, it's like hitting a freaking brick wall.
Yeah. What about it? What part was the hard part that you didn't anticipate?
The hard part was all these people I knew from this organization, they're like, oh yeah, Trent, like we're going to use you. You should definitely do it. We'll support you. And I got started, and then all of a sudden the idea of hiring a small business to come in and help manage your litigations and deal with all this evidence just didn't exactly sound, I guess as appetizing.
In reality as it did on paper, huh? To them, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And it got tough. I'd say for the first 6 months.
Were you doing this same forensic discovery kind of work? It was just a different business, right?
Right. And we weren't doing as much forensics at that time as more the electronic discovery on the firm side.
Okay.
And so, it's like month to month. Every month, I'm just like, okay, maybe I should close things down. Like, maybe I don't think this is going to work out. Like, I don't see it long term. I even interviewed for other jobs. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what else is out there? And and then when it comes to like the week where I'm like, maybe I should really shut this thing down. I got a project in, and I was getting other projects in, but this is a good size one. And so it got me through another couple months. And then I got to the same point. It's like, maybe this isn't working out. I got another project in. And then it went from there.
How many years into running the business was that? When you feel like it really caught kind of?
Oh, I never really felt like it caught.
Okay. But it was years, not months, right?
No, it was years. Uh-huh. It was years. And we gradually grew. And I had, I would say after 5 years, I had two partners. One was a partner on the forensic side, another was a partner on the electronic discovery side. We'd grew in the business to a decent size. But partnerships are tough.
Yes.
Partnerships are really tough. And, on many levels, it could be, you could have personality conflicts. One person decides to check out, or y'all don't agree on what the future of the business should be. So therefore you just get paralysis. You can't do anything if you can't get everybody on board. And so that was a really, that was a learning process. And I'll say, thankfully, when things started to not work out on the partnership side, I had, and this is, learning this entrepreneurship program was like, get all your legal paperwork in order immediately in the very beginning.
Yes.
Plan for the worst. And so I had all that written out. So when it came to that point, then, I was able to work through it, and I was able to buy him out eventually and be able to continue with the business. Mm-hmm. But I would say if we didn't have that paperwork in order, we would have failed. Yeah. It wouldn't have worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Most entrepreneurs say this about partnerships. It's like, it seems like you need somebody in the beginning to get things off the ground. And sometimes that's true. The partnership is necessary. But it just creates a lot of potential friction in businesses. And you and I probably both know examples of people who run a business with a 40-year partner, somebody that they've made it work for a really long time. Yeah. And I think that's more rare, right, than common.
Yeah.
Okay, so you buy your partner out of the business that you'd started. And didn't you sell that business at some point, or what happened next with it?
Yeah, so that's kind of funny. So when I was at that point, when my partner's leaving, one of the reasons why the business wasn't doing well. And, we were always the last to get paid.
The owners.
I think we had right around maybe like 12 full-time, 10 part-time people there.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, a lot of overhead. And so at that point, I was like, gosh, maybe I should just let this thing fail. I don't think it's going to work out. And so I was like, you know what? I just got to go for it. So I bought them out. I was talking to another business owner. It's very important to get to know the other business owners in the community. And so I went out to lunch with a competitor, And he said, my lease is coming up and I'm not sure if I want to renew. There's just, just too much traveling and trouble. And I was like, I'll buy you. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I'll buy you. And so I had a relationship with an M&A attorney, and essentially we did a deal to where, I basically bought it for free. So essentially,
he was ready to just shut it down, right?
He was ready to shut it down.
Save me.
Yeah, he just wanted employees to have, to still have a job. He wanted to be able to someone take over the contracts and all the equipment, and his employees still be to be served well. And so we had this agreement. It was like a 2-year payout. I give him a percentage of revenue from all of his clients over a 2-year period. He actually did pretty well on the deal, but then immediately overnight, it grew my business by another 50%. And so that got me to the point to where my business was valuable enough to be acquired. But, I wasn't necessarily thinking that at that point. I was more or less stuck. And, we had 4 salespeople at that time. And I was entirely reliant on salespeople. And I didn't understand sales. I didn't understand marketing. I was more of the tech person, more of the operations stuff. And eventually I just came to the realization, I was like, I just don't understand this stuff. I don't know how I'm going to grow this business. Mm-hmm. And, I was just plateaued. And I was like, this is not going to be my business. This is not going to be the long-term, the big win. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to another competitor of mine, was a good friend. He was very successful. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I need some of your advice. Maybe I should sell my business. He goes, oh, Trent. He's like, you're thinking about selling your business? Okay. I'm interested. Like, I want to throw my hat in the ring. I was like, oh, wow. Because he's just always impressed with the way we did things on the operations side.
Right. And which was your strength. That was a natural, you were naturally inclined there.
Yeah. Like internally business, we had this thing, the business name was Electronic Legal. We had this...
Electronic Legal.
Electronic Legal. Mm-hmm. And... we did this thing called Electronic Legal University. So we would cut, my staff could voluntarily come in early. We would do an hour-long class on something. And so if you're interested in getting promoted or getting the certifications or whatever, we always encouraged it. And we always, backed you up on it. And so, we were always a target for other companies trying to steal our employees.
Right. And it was a small industry and people become niche and they know a certain thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And then at that point, whenever I was talking to this person about selling my business, then I reached out to another friend of mine that had recently sold his business, and that was in the area. And he was like, "Oh, Trent," he goes, "You're thinking about selling your business? Like, I think the company I'm at would be very interested." And so all of a sudden, the CEO and CFO, so I talked to them. They come into Colorado, and they have this whole spiel. And one thing that came evident to me is that all their strengths were what my weaknesses were. Like, they built this $300 million business at the time, this $300 million business based off of sales and marketing.
Yes.
And I was just like, wow. I was like, this is like what I needed. So one of the things that David Miner, my mentor, used to always say to me is the learn from other people's money, as I mentioned before. And I took that to heart again. And so I was talking to them, and they gave me an offer. It wasn't as good of an offer as I got from the first one, but the deal I had with them, I was like, look, I'll do this if I can be on the road 3 weeks out of the month. I want to be entrenched in your salespeople. I want to be at all the sales meetings. I want to be at the conferences. Like, I want to.
You wanted to learn the thing you didn't know.
I want to learn the thing I didn't know. It's kind of like getting a master's in something, but for free.
Yes.
And this company was just amazing sales marketing. So, we sold to them. I went over to them, and and before we sold, I went to my, I talked to my wife Carrie, and I was like, Carrie, this is gonna be really tough. It's gonna really suck. It's gonna be terrible. We had 2 young kids at the time. I was like, are you in? And so we talked about it, and she's like, yes, I'm in. So I got her permission. Mm-hmm. I thank God I did. Because it was really tough. It was tough. It was like having an ever-ending marathon of trips and just work commitments. But the really cool thing about that was that I got to go on the road, and I got to be with the top salespeople in this company that are selling like 20, 30, $50 million worth of, goods or services essentially a year. And so I'm driving with them meeting to meeting. I'm, having happy hour with them, breakfast with them, and I'm getting to pick their brain. I'm getting to say, hey, like, what works for you? What have you learned? Like, what's your angle? And then I get to see them in the meetings. And so I got to learn from all these people, and they all had a different way of doing things. They all had a very different way of doing things. And then also the company had a sales training too. And it's for new people that just jumped on. And they were this company is a high turnover company. So
as often sort of initiation of new salespeople can be, right?
Yeah, like hire 10 salespeople, maybe 2 work out after a year. But I went to the sales training, introductory sales training every single year. I was like, you know what? I'm getting paid for this. I'm gonna take advantage. So the same sales training every single year. And then eventually I felt like I started to understand it.
You grew your salesperson muscle.
Right. And like have a little bit of a sales identity. I didn't have any sales identity. I thought a salesperson was like a 4-letter word. I didn't feel that
it is a 4-letter word.
Not to me. I love sales. No, I love being able to help people and being able to kind of bring resources and knowledge to them. But I didn't feel that way before.
Yes. Yeah. So you sell the business, you onboard with this other company, you learn the thing that you don't know, you grow the muscle. And at what point did you decide I got to do this again? Because that's a hard leap of faith to scale a second company.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I see people you see people that scale 5 companies at a time. I feel like they're just magicians. Like they just have this ability they have ideas, they see an opportunity in their field, they can grow businesses concurrently. But I would say it's a damn near impossible thing to grow one business. So what made it possible or what made it so that you wanted to do it again?
Every day I went into my job, I was worried I was going to get fired.
They would know you were ADD, huh? They would be like, I know who this guy is. No.
Yeah, not that I thought I was doing a bad job, but I didn't have that control over me. I didn't have the ability to influence change necessarily. I felt like at any point the CEO can decide, oh, hey, maybe we're just paying Trent too much money and he's not contributing enough, and let's get rid of him. And so I always had that hanging over me. And also, after being at the company for about 4 years, I just felt like tapped out on what I could learn.
Yeah.
And so I went to the CEO. Yeah, but whenever you sell your company to somebody, you have this thing called a non-compete, especially if you own stock in that company. You have this non-compete, and you can't work for a period of time in the same industry. And those really stick when it comes to equity and mergers and acquisitions. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I know you have these other things going on. In our division that does this digital forensics electronic discovery, it's just a small portion of revenue for the entire company. What if we could package this up, we could sell it, you could make a lot of money off of it, and it'll simplify your business? He's like, that sounds great. Like, okay, and you let me have my non-compete. He's like, if you can do that, Trent, yeah, absolutely, I'll let you out of your non-compete.
Oh, so you wanted to take a small segment of the business, peel it off.
Oh, yeah. Take a small segment of the business, like what we started whenever we sold our business to them.
Yeah.
Package it up as a business unit and then sell it to another company.
Okay.
And like not me going with it. We just sold that unit.
Okay.
And so we found a buyer and they purchased that unit. My entire team went with them. I didn't. And then that opened me up to eventually start what I'm doing now.
You're doing this forensic discovery thing now, and it's again, the trajectory was slow at first, and then it's started to really accelerate. And I think that's true of a lot of businesses, right? They're slow, and then something catches, right? And I feel like you and I are friends, so I just happen to see this shift in your business, in you, that's been happening here. And so I'm curious, how big can it be, and how do you scale it, and how do you know when it's like, all of a sudden that shift occurs? I feel like there's this knowing that a shift is occurring in your business and that you have to be prepared to scale it. Yeah. So what kind of like resources, tools, like how do you see the signs when they're there, and what do you do about it?
There's a few things that were different this time around. Have you ever played the game Super Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. Maybe not lately, but
Yeah,
but growing up, we played it.
Yeah, a lot.
I remember when you first started playing it.
Yeah, you were terrible and you drove off the road all the time.
Oh yeah, you're getting killed by the first mushroom guy that comes, and finally you jump over them, and then you fall in the big ditch, right? And then
you just drive off the cliff.
You drive off the cliff, and then you're trying to jump and get the star, and you fall down, and the little turtle guy gets you, but eventually you play it enough, you kind of figure all those things out, and then you're ready for level 2. So each time you play, you're just flying through level 1, and eventually you're flying through level 2 and level 3. And I feel business a lot is the same way. A lot of people are so focused on their successes in business, but I felt like I've always learned a lot more from my failures.
Sure.
And being able to recognize those whenever they happen. Not that something bad happened to me and it's not my fault. It's, this happened. What could I have done differently? How could I have done that better? And, I've always been like that. And so with this time around, what helped me was I had all those data points. And so when starting the business, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to, I'm not going to make the same mistakes as I did before. And so as things came up, and it's very small decisions, but they all add up. But as things came up, then I make a decision based upon what I've learned in the past, or perhaps other mentors or other entrepreneurs, learning from them. Yeah. And then, eventually it gets to the point to where, all those small decisions add up and you grow. But, we've gotten to be a decent size now. And it was so much harder, those first couple of years getting started than it is now.
Yeah, that's right. It becomes a little bit easier, and like you said, and you're right. I mean, entrepreneurship is a compounding effect, right? Which is the thing I learned when I was 25. I get to carry with me by the time I scale the next business at 30 or the next business at 35 or whatever. And so I do think you're right. I think the failures and successes of the business become sort of a playbook to learn what to do and what not to do the next time a decision presents itself. But it's interesting. I mean, just hearing you say that, I feel like the lessons of the business, they show up here all the time. I mean, just when I thought I had something figured out, you realize you don't have it figured out at all.
No.
And just about the time you think like you have a mousetrap built, the market changes or the industry changes or the people that are in the bus with you shift, or the seats on the bus shift, or whatever. And just about the time you think you've got this thing figured out, it moves.
Right.
And I think if there's one thing that's true about running business, it's that, that it is ever changing. And I do wonder, though, there's this ever changing thing that is for sure. How do you get it from not feeling like chaos for the people that are around you and the people that you're moving? Like, how did it not feel like chaos when you broke off a division of the company and moved all those people here? I think the people that are on a salary, like you said, that have this looming fear that tomorrow their job could be eliminated at any time. Yeah. And that's like pretty much everybody, not really, but more people work as employees than they do as owners. Yeah. And so there's this looming fear from the employee standpoint that they just want order. And the entrepreneur in some way is chaos. And so I'm curious, how do you get it to feel orderly when I know in there it isn't? In the brain of an entrepreneur, it is chaos. Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you balance that out?
That's a good question. There's a lot of parts to that question. So I'm an A to Z person, as are a lot of entrepreneurs. Like I know I'm at A now. I know I can get to Z. I know it's possible. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I know it can get done. And this is another saying that David Miner's always said to me is be a great collector of talent. And whenever you hire people, hire the right people. And if someone's not working out, you get rid of them quickly. And so the businesses I've built, like the last business I had built, like towards the end, it's like what I started figuring out, and now is everybody that works in the business has somewhat of an entrepreneur mindset. They're the type of individuals to where you can throw them in the fire. They learn, they figure things out, they can handle things under pressure, but also they're their goals align with yours. And
creating a shared vision.
And, you know, the happiness of the employees on my team mean the world to me. And I'm not moving forward with anything unless they're all bought in on it.
Does that come to be a challenge at some point in the business when there's a hard decision that has to be made and not everybody is buying in? But, you know, I mean, that's sort of the ownership curse, right? Which is that there could be a time in the future where you know it's time to sell or time to branch out or bring in somebody that creates chaos in the business or rock the boat in a certain direction. And I think the trouble with having a team with total buy-in is that at some point, sometimes hard decisions have to be made.
Yeah. When I was in college, I had a big inflection point in my life where, you know, I had this moment happen to me where entirely just shifted a lot of my belief system, my outlook on life, everything. And I want to do everything I can to, you know, make an effect in other people's lives and make them better.
Yeah.
And not necessarily by just going somewhere and donating some money or volunteering. Like, I want to actively be involved in someone else's lives and influence change.
Yeah, because you care. Yeah. Because you care deeply about the people, everybody in your life. I mean, the Trent I know cares deeply about your mom and dad and your family. And then, you know, I look at like your first employee, Amy and Sherry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know these people by face. I would never even be able to pick them out of a crowd, but I know their names because we're friends, because you care deeply about them. And I think that says a lot about you and the business you're running and the kind of spirit it takes to be this successful. And, you know, I find what's interesting about this kind of sweet moment we're having here is just that you have this technical ability to be this forensic discovery analyst, businessman who has a strong sales muscle now. But at the heart, you're sweet and it's all heart for you and you care deeply about the business. And I think that is the formula. That is the formula for real success, which is deep knowledge and deep compassion and care for a successful business. And I think you got it, Trent.
Yeah, it's one of the exciting things about having a business.
Yeah.
Is that you can influence change.
Yeah.
You can impact change. You can impact other people's lives. And so for me, that's extremely exciting. Yeah. The one thing I would say for anyone looking to start a business or has a business and maybe it's struggling a little bit is like kind of, you know, find that one thing, you know, what
that fires you up.
What drives you? What fires you up?
Yeah. Do you have like top 3 business successes or top 3? I know that's a tough question, but maybe.
I don't have a top 3. I have a top 4.
Oh, top 4. Okay, go ahead.
I had a hard time fitting them in 3, so I brought some notes. So the first piece would be, before getting into any business, be like, run the financials. You know, you're thinking about starting, like, let's say a secondhand clothing shop. What's it going to cost for the space? What's it going to cost for the employees? Like, you know, what's the margin you're going to make on the product? And, you know, just because you can start up a business and you can sell stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be able to scale or grow.
It doesn't mean you should, right?
Or it doesn't mean you should, or that it'll provide you or your family the lifestyle that you want. Because a lifestyle, you know, there's several aspects to that. You know, one, there is your work hours. You know, are you going to be able to spend time with your kids and your spouse? The second component is, are you making enough money to where you can give your kids opportunity, and also, whether it's long term or short term, and then also just being able to have a good, healthy, more of a stress-free life.
Work-life balance.
Yeah, a work-life balance, and so that's number one. The second one, which I'm sure you saw, is burning desire. Is finding that thing that pushes you, and like focus on it, and you know. Do what you love, and do the thing that, you know, will get you up out of the bed every morning and be able to, you know, work as hard as you need and put everything you need into it, or you can into it. The third is focus. One of the things I didn't share with you initially was, you know, at that time when I had my first business and I sold it, I was getting very distracted because, you know, we would get a project in and we would need to do like some technology thing. So we'd have to collect 89 email accounts from Google. But at that point, there's no tool that could do it. So then I'd write the tool that did it. And then we used it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then it's like, oh, maybe we should like spin off a software business and we can have a commercial product. Let's put money into that. Let's get developers. Let's get that going. And I did that twice. So 2 different little software startups, both of which sold, but not for a great deal of money. But we got to the point where we had a product.
Like a startup in a startup.
It's like, yeah, startup in a startup.
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. Yeah. And so it, with this time around, one of the things I always constantly do is, have to remind myself is to focus. Every time there's like this bright shade, oh, maybe we should be doing this new service offering. Like let's do that. And we can't do that. I want to focus. I want to be the Chick-fil-A of digital forensics. And what that means is I don't want to be a fast food restaurant of digital data or anything, but I like to be able to hire employees, talented employees that are smart, that can train very easily, that enjoy their job, have great customer service, and we can quickly turn around a great product. And so but I can only do that if I really focus on the one thing that we're good at. And then the other piece is, to be a leader that you would want to work for.
Wow, which is always tricky, I feel like, because leadership is a demanding job and it requires another muscle. Mm-hmm. And so you're good technically. You grow a sales muscle, but to truly be a leader is yet another muscle of the business, right? Mm-hmm. So interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm 46 now. I just turned 46. I'd like to, we're growing this business. We've been growing anywhere from 40 to 50% a year. Ooh. And in about 5 years from now, we'll be at the point to where I'll be ready to exit. We have a program set up for the employees that they have something to gain or a lot to gain too on an exit. Mm-hmm. And so 5 years will be 51. Exit the business. Be able to have have the next chapter of my life and be able to use what I've learned and what I've earned to, just kind of continue what I want to be able to do, just influence change and help, affect other people's lives.
Yeah. Or maybe you go like David Miner and teach at the university and pass along the next generation of entrepreneurs. You can go, what did he say when you met him? He was just there doing his contribution or something?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Yeah, maybe that.